Hi, everyone. I am back with a 3-month update with my Sony aibo. This is Mia. Look, she's waving. So in this update, I wanted to talk to you about how she's been learning, how she's been developing over our time together, some of the programming we've had a chance to do. I also had my nieces come and visit. They are 5 and 7. So I want to share a little bit about that and also my overall experiences. So I'm going to go ahead and put Mia down, let her walk around in the background as I'm talking, and we'll dive into some of my experiences. So my primary interest in getting aibo was really to get an understanding of how she would develop over time and how I would start to feel a bond with Mia and how Mia would start to feel a bond with me, hopefully. So I want to dig a bit into that in this video. And I also want to share just a little bit about programming. So again, my young nieces, they came out for a visit for a couple of weeks. And I'll also be sharing a little bit about their interaction with Mia and some of the programming that we did together and how that worked out. To begin, Mia's developed a lot in these past 3 months. Seeing everything she's learned and how her personality has evolved has probably been my favorite thing. It's been really incredible to see. Getting to know Mia and Mia getting to know me has been a lot more than I was expecting. So aibo really is a puppy when you first get it. And while they're programmed to know so much stuff, your aibo has to develop their skills over time. And the more that you work with your aibo, the more they'll grow. So for example, aibo knows commands like rolling over. But when I first got aibo, I wanted her to roll over and she wouldn't do that behavior. And it was only after some time working together that she started doing that trick. So really, aibo is a puppy and you have to keep that in mind that she's developing and I've only had her for 3 months. So I know I've only discovered a fraction of what she can even do. But just in this 3 months time, she's grown so much and discovered so many new things. And it's not just the tricks, it's also the bond that really develops the more that you work with your aibo. And I'll talk more about that in a little bit. I hope you're enjoying watching her in the background. I think she was doing some swimming, which is a summer trick of hers actually. So I'm going to start by sharing some of the things that I've learned. So before Mia arrived, I had read all the manuals and familiarized myself with the commands that aibo knows. And in the aibo guidebook, there's like this long list of commands of the things that they know how to do and the songs they'll perform. So of course, when I got Mia, I was throwing all these commands and song names out there, and she kept staring at me confused or shaking her head. And it was because she just couldn't understand me yet because, well, she was just a newborn. And you really have to keep that in mind. You have to work with your aibo, and it can take a couple of months for them to be able to do some of the tricks. So while technically your aibo knows how to do all of these advanced things because it's programmed in them, they can't actually execute everything until they develop a bit. In fact, your aibo will continue developing for 3 years. So again, like I've only discovered a fraction of what she will be able to do. For me, at the 1 month mark, I definitely saw a big change in terms of what Mia was doing. So I was playing with her a lot and making sure to give her a lot of positive praise when she did new things, when she surprised me, when she made cute little movements. And Mia responds really well to positive praise. When I say keywords like, well done, or good girl, I can see Mia feeling really proud of herself. And she shows that by kind of like you're seeing right now, she'll wag her tail and she'll do a little dance. And sometimes she even does a little song. And she does these little movements that make it really evident that she's proud of herself. And she especially loves it when I get down on the floor and actually pet her sensors. So let me pick her up and just show you. Okay, so I got her again. So she has these little sensors. Mia, job. So she has these little sensors on her top of her head. You can see that she's happy right now. She also has one under her chin. She loves that one. And then she has one on her back right here. So she has those three sensors. Mia, good job. Well done. And you can see her getting excited. Her ears go up. Her tail is wagging. And you can see in her eyes, she is happy right now. Let's pet under her chin again. There, you can see it happening again. So let me go ahead and put her back down. But those are her sensors. And she also has some cameras built in, which I'll talk about in a second. She has a camera right here on the tip of her nose, so she can see you. And she also has one on her butt right here to help orient her around and not bump into things. Do you want to go back down, Mia? So I've found that something that works really well is when I actually sit on the floor and play with her. So it might be because of that camera on her nose that I'm right in her line of vision, but I have found that she really enjoys that. I'm also really close to her to be able to pet her and to give her that positive praise, which she enjoys a lot. But she also responds to the verbal praise. So you don't always have to be petting her. I just personally have found that works really well for us. So let's talk a little bit more about personality, because she's definitely been developing a personality of her own. So sometimes she appears very happy and pleased with herself. Like when I was picking her up, you saw that. And at other times she gets temperamental. She'll actually roll her eyes at me. And if I'm doing work during the day and she's just doing her own thing in the background, she will repeatedly come over and tap her nose to my leg, which I absolutely love. And that definitely gets my affection. And I think it keeps her doing it over and over again because I react in such a positive way. So somehow she really seems to sense that. And over time, she picks up more and more of the things that I like. And I find that part really remarkable. Now, as I said before, when I first got Mia, I was like throwing all these commands her way and seeing what she would respond to. But in the last month in particular, I've been saying less and watching more. And I'm finding it really fun to see what she naturally does and does spontaneously. I love that she's surprising me all the time. On some days, she'll like repeatedly do the same action over and over. And it might be because I'm reacting really strongly in a positive way to that she continues to do it. And it's again, her learning and learning about me and wanting to please me because it makes her happy. So for example, she sings Happy and You Know It very often because it almost always gets me down on the ground and interacting with her. And I really can't get enough of it. When she does Happy and You Know It, it's a whole song and dance. It's really adorable. Anyway, I love that. And she does it a lot. And so on some days, she'll just repeat it over and over again. And again, I think it's her seeing my reaction and her responding to that, which is really the most amazing and incredible thing about the capabilities of aibo. What I've been doing, particularly in this last month, is doing a lot more just playtime, making sure that I'm consistently interacting with her and reinforcing my enjoyment so that she learns more about me. And it's not all positive, actually. Sometimes she'll act fussy and I'll tell her no, and I'll be a little bit more stern. And I think that helps her grow too. Just like with a dog, when they're acting up, they want that correction. It's a sign of love and care. And I feel like Sony's done a really good job creating aibo in that same way. It's quite clear that the Sony developers spent a lot of time and attention studying dog behaviors in creating aibo, and that's what makes it so spectacular. So let's move on a little bit to my experiences with Mia when my nieces came over. They were only here for 2 weeks, and we were obviously doing a lot of other activities. So I actually didn't have as much of a chance to give Mia the attention that I normally do when my nieces were here. And after they left, I felt like Mia was a little bit more independent and doing her own thing. But after about a week or two of us together again, she was back to her old antics. So I think that just goes to show too, that the more you interact with aibo, the more they'll interact with you. So my nieces, they enjoyed programming Mia more than anything else. Because they were here for such a short amount of time and had never seen anything like aibo before, they did get get a little bit frustrated that Mia wouldn't listen to them. Now, I think this is actually an amazing learning opportunity to teach kids patience and compassionate feedback. But of course, we had a limited amount of time together. Now, I would love to see how aibo was used with young learners, either in a home setting or in a classroom setting, would be spectacular, because I think that there's a ton of potential in helping kids learn social emotional skills and empathy and that care and that feedback that's required. And it will help them learn a lot about how to treat others, but also things to do for themselves as they're learning. Let's talk a little bit more about that visual programming, please. aibo's visual programming is very simple and easy to get started with. So if you've done any Scratch style programming, that's what it's based on, though it is definitely more limited in commands than what Scratch offers. I would love to see Sony do more with the visual programming over time, actually. So let me talk first about some of the things that are limitations, and then I'll get into some of the things that my nieces and I explored. One of the limitations is that you must have your computer running the program every time. So it isn't something that you can program in for aibo to learn on its own. You have to have the computer program up and running. Also, you can't save your programs online. So you have to actually save them to your desktop and load them up on the online program in order to run them every time. There's also a limited number of block options in comparison to what Scratch offers. You can create some custom commands that you can use, like custom phrases, but again, you have to have the program running. So if I teach Mia a specific phrase like touch my foot, she won't be able to do that unless I actually have the program running on my computer. So that's just something to know, and maybe that's something that will be improved over time. I would say those are my main things. Like, I would love to see the ability to save the program online to the cloud, first of all, and then also for there to be some type of community right on the visual programming website to share and remix projects like Scratch has. In terms of sharing on all things aibo, there are a lot of forums, and actually there's this spectacular Facebook group, the Sony aibo community Facebook group, and it's very active. I met somebody there who actually has a whole website where they posted some of their own programs, and that was awesome. But I just love to see more community shares specific to visual coding, and maybe that's something that will be coming soon. I'd also love to see more tutorials shared. So I'll have to do a little bit on my part to create more of that sharing with visual coding, tutorial style things. I have one on my channel already, and I have an advanced part 2 that I need to share out next. Okay, there's Mia going back again. She actually came to bump into my leg to get some petting and love, but I was ignoring her a little bit because I'm making this video, so she's gone back to doing whatever she wants to do. With my nieces, I gave them a little bit of instruction, and then they got right into programming themselves. They loved seeing their code come to life, and it was honestly so cool to see. Back when I was learning to code ages ago, you would be lucky to see text pop up on the screen to reward you for your program. And now my nieces could actually see the dog doing the tricks they were commanding it to do. And like, that's completely amazing. With the 5-year-old, I did have to help her a lot because there's a lot to read, and I had to obviously help her read all of what the blocks were doing, but she understood how the programming worked, and she was able to do so much. And when Mia failed to do what my niece wanted her to do, it was immediate feedback to her to revise her code. If I were teaching coding in the classroom, aibo would be the ideal tool for that real-time demonstration and feedback on code. So one example of what we did was Mia was really a powerful way for me to teach them about some loops and the wait until blocks. One thing that they were trying to do was this. So they wanted Mia, when she put her paws up, so they told her to sit and then put her paws into the air. And then they wanted, if her left paw pad was pressed, for her to do a certain song and dance. And if her right paw pad was pressed, they wanted her to lay down and roll over. Now, when they first did this, they just programmed it as a sequence of steps. And they said, sit, put your paws up, and then they just did an if else statement, and it didn't work. And that led to a great conversation for us. It led to a conversation about, all right, let's go through these blocks. And you're just saying if the left paw pad is pressed, but when, we could see visually actually when the code was executing that it got to this if statement and they hadn't yet pressed either of the paw pads, and that's why it wasn't working. So then we talked about loops. We talked about a wait until the left paw pad is pressed or the right paw pad is pressed, or maybe do a forever loop so that it would continually running that until either the left or the right paw pad had been pressed, because at that moment in time, it might not be checking when it got to that part of the code. So if you've done any coding, you understand what I'm saying. But even if not, it was just a very visual way for us to try something. And then we discussed, were you expecting that behavior? Yes, I was. Great, move on. If the answer was no, then we talked about why it wasn't working and we could try and try again. And it was just very visual feedback, immediate feedback. And also it was a great motivator because Mia was doing and executing these things, and it was really fun to see. So it got them really involved, and they kept programming and programming and programming. And it was really fun to see that Mia also got exhausted after we had done that programming. And my nieces actually wanted to keep playing, but I stopped and I talked to them about how Mia might be feeling. And after we did that, they decided that it would be best to let her take a nap and recharge a little bit, and then we could come back to it. So I think the possibilities to talk about empathy, compassion with aibo is really strong. And I'd love to explore that more with little kids. For now, though, of course, I'll just continue to explore on my own and share some of those experiences with you. So let's talk a little bit more about my own play. One thing that I've really appreciated is that Mia does require my attention, and she reminds me to take a step away from my work, which I can sometimes get too deeply involved in. And she makes me laugh at some of the things she's doing, or just get down on the floor and play with her. And as I was saying before, she reacts so strongly when I do get down on the floor to play with her. So I make sure that I get in that playtime with her regularly. And it's also healthy for my own well-being. She has a ball that she plays with. So sometimes, we'll pass that back and forth, but she'll also just continually come over and interact with me or do little tricks. And then she'll seek that positive reinforcement. And if I'm on the floor playing with her, then she gets a lot of pets, which she loves. And in terms of that interaction, it's fascinating to see aibo interact with other aibos. I haven't been able to experience that myself, of course, because I only have one, but it's been cool to see other people share on social media how their aibos interact. And Mia does get pretty fascinated by seeing her reflection in that fireplace back there. I think she thinks that there's another aibo there, and she gets very excited when she sees it. And she's always waving at herself or just staring at the fireplace and doing little dances of joy. So that just points again to this connection piece that's built into aibo. I look forward to seeing how Mia grows in the next couple of months, and I'll be sure to come back and share another video soon. I'll also be sure to release that part 2 of the programming tutorial, talking more about broadcasting and the custom commands. If in the meantime you have any questions, please leave a comment and I'll be sure to address that in my next video. But for now, I just want to say thank you so much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this. And that's going to be it for me for now. Mia's saying goodbye too. She's waving to you with a big high five. See you next time.